It's been 10 months since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the African continent, and considering the margin of disruption it has caused to African states, today we look at the Republic of Sierra Leone in the western region of Africa. And on the line, we've got Mr. Samuel Wangura, who is a journalist in the country, who will be telling us more on the updates around the protection and the promotion of civic space and human rights in Sierra Leone, and also the innovations that have been done under the times of Corona, innovations that have been helpful or are continuing to be helpful and very useful to the communities.
Here's the thing. So already when COVID struck, we were already in a state of public health emergency declared by the president. And he did that declaration because he thought at the time it was necessary to fight to protect the rights of women and girls, because it's becoming a menace. The issue of sexual and gender-based violence. I mean, so many rape cases here and there. So the president thought at the time it was necessary to declare a state of public health emergency. And that was done. And well, based on the declaration, we had to record our very first corona case in March, precisely the 31st of March. And it happened, we were in a state of emergency. So when the state of emergency and the outbreak of corona, the president had to again declare a 3-day national lockdown just to be able to, to put containment measures in place to prevent the spread of the virus. That lockdown was welcomed by many, but again, you have certain quarters, or those you want to refer to as human rights defenders. They were complaining, looking at the economic and social status in Sierra Leone, especially when the country has, majority of us Sierra Leoneans live in monumental abject poverty. So we only survive when we go out for the day and we come home. That's when we'll be able to get things. But if we do not go out, we can't survive for the day. So that's brought about so many contentions, so many rancor, if you want to call it. And the advocacy was very bold and pronounced from human rights defenders. But obviously the government had its drive. The government wanted to ensure that it contains the spread of the virus. And the civic space, it's trouble to say, because we've gotten a situation where we've couple of civil society organizations, they've wanted to stage protests, they've wanted to take to the streets in registering their grievances based on what is going on, the way government is handling certain things, be it economic, be it the corona or so, but they've been prevented not from staging those protests. Now we have an act. That act provides for you seeking, on you notifying the Sierra Leone police to provide you security whenever you want to stage a protest. The act stipulates that you must notify the police. But the police are interpreting that as you seeking permission from them. So there is that fight whether you have to, I only have to notify you that I will be taking this. Citizens cannot hold protest, because if it's a pro-government protest, I will tell you, it can go on even without notifying the police. But if it's an anti-government protest, the police would not permit you, because they would tell you that they have to permit you before staging those protests. When the law says you only have to notify them, so they'll be able to put security in place for you to do your stuff peacefully. So that in itself has narrowed the civic space in Sierra Leone.
Just to cut you in, going back to the standard operating procedures, what is the system in place currently? Because we look at 10 months or so since March, when you reported your first case in the country, and now, would you say that the general public is still up to the task, like to keep safe? Would you say that it is something that people are still practicing? Are people wearing masks? Is there freedom of assembly as asked before, or is it just open, or are there any regulations that you can tell us?
Yes, even the Parliament was asking for the regulations because the regulations have to go through Parliament. Parliament has to ratify those regulations before the implementation. I mean, that has the implementation of the regulations dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. So that was delayed until very recently when the Attorney General and Minister of Justice took it to Parliament and it was ratified. So one of the regulations speak to you must be a mask must be in your possession. So that's the word. Wherever you are, a mask must be in your possession. So that again is being twisted because many people are interpreting it as I can have the mask in my pocket, it's still in my possession. So and so people are those who understand and know English better are arguing that I need not, I mean, mask up. The law says I should have it in my possession. So it's in my pocket, it's in my car, it's in my bag. So people are actually not adhering to that particular regulation. And there is also not too much of effort being put in the implementation of that particular regulation. That, for example, if you are caught without a mask, you are to pay a fine. But almost every Sierra Leonean goes about without masking. And the freedom to assemblies, there's a ban on the gathering of over 100 people. There's a ban on that. There's also a ban on entertainment shows. So if you are an artist, you want to launch an album, you want to have a concert or a festival, there is a ban on that. It cannot go on. Until yesterday, the Ministry of Sport wrote to the NACOVAC, the national agency set up to manage the COVID-19, wrote to them and asked them for permission to allow spectators to be watching the different sporting disciplines, be it football, be it, so that the players can be motivated. And NACOVAC wrote to them, denying them that, no, we cannot do that. It's risky, and I think that breeds the transmission. So we're not going to do that. So that people are banned from undertaking such activities, and the entertainers are economically affected as a result of this. They feel like they can only make money when they have shows, when they organize their event, and that is not happening. So it's a bit crazy on the side of assemblies because, again, even churches were banned from holding, I mean, their communal services in the church. They were banned until very recently when the government readjusted the regulation and allowed them to go, but also it should not go beyond 50% of their members. So if you had 200 people attending, I mean, you should only accommodate now 100 people.
Yeah, you mentioned the good job that has been done by the civil society in the country as regards to advocacy around the protection and the promotion of civic space in Sierra Leone. What would you tell us about the innovations that have been done in the times of Corona? By innovations, I'm talking about what individuals or the civil society organizations have done to mitigate the spread of the virus, or something that you would say is beneficial to the community. What innovations have been done?
Yeah. I think even the use of Zoom, for example, became so bold during this pandemic because civil society organizations realized that even when they want to meet and strategize for the implementation of certain things that would definitely help in curbing the spread of the virus, they have to do that virtually. So we see some amount of innovation and creativity in holding meetings virtually via Zoom, whether it's WhatsApp and so on. And also because there is this issue of social distancing, the virus spreads by human contact. So they feel because of the issue of social distancing, when they go to communities, they have to engage few of the stakeholders, allow them to go talk to their residents or to their people, door by door, even with distribution of masks. They have to do that door by door. For example, a particular organization was distributing um, huge quantity of masks. So what they did was when people are sleeping, they had to go drop the masks at their doors so that when they wake up, they would then have to pick up their packages. So no, they do not come in contact with those guys. So I think that was very innovative to just stop the spread. So I think innovation has been very, very key and integral in the fight against COVID, especially from the side of the CSOs, because when even us, the journalists, when we try to talk to them and when we call them, if we go for interviews, they would have to give us mask. That hey, you have to mask up, and the social distancing has to happen, otherwise there will not be conversation. And especially during the lockdown, the civil society organizations had to prepare food to deliver to those who could not afford. I mean, those who go out on a normal day to survive, and there was not the possibility was not there because of the 3-day lockdown. They had to package food stuff, items, and sanitary items as well. They had to package them, drop them door to door for those people, and so they would not come out to find what they're supposed to survive by. And so I think innovation has played a very an integral role in the entire management of the COVID, especially amongst those defending the rights of citizens. Because
thank you very much for that. Do you have any final comments that you would like to pass on to the rest of Africa?
I think for me, what COVID has done, it has exposed the state of affairs of the continent, especially West Africa, our healthcare system. And I must say this, when bigger countries, bigger nations, better economies were closing down, telling us we cannot go to those countries. Because for us, specifically the West, when our leaders, when they fall ill, they have to go to the bigger nations for treatment. And during the lockdowns, when nations were preventing us not to go and, and wreak havoc with regards to the COVID fight, they had to resort to treatment in different countries. And then they realized that the health system there needs some huge intervention, huge investments, huge capacity. And that has seen huge investment, especially in Sierra Leone, in the sector as a result of that. So we're now seeing even the construction of a multi-million dollar modern health complex for the first time in Sierra Leone as a result of COVID exposed Sierra Leone. So I think Africa needs to look at more the concept of protectionism than globalization. It is very important that we are not going to run away from globalization, but how do we ensure that we protect what we have, we invest in what we have, and the issue of aid is killing Africa. That we have to always depend on these bigger nations. When these bigger nations, they have to come to us for the raw materials that they've always used to transform their nations and build their economies, and even the human resource, but we're not taking advantage of that. We just depend. My country is celebrating the fact that we're able to pass the Millennium Challenge Corporation indicator in the fight against corruption. So we qualify the compact, which is about $400 million grants in aid. And I was telling someone that should we really celebrate this? We are recovering huge sums from the fight against corruption. Why not use that to even construct an edifice for the office, for the body fighting graft, because the body is being housed in a rented building. So these are the things that I think we should take into consideration as Africa. We should ensure that we invest, because what is again killing Africa is brain drain. Those who've gotten the required expertise in different fields, they have to travel out of Africa. They have to go find better jobs that will secure them and their family for lifetime. Whilst us here, you do not have that, because the cash they will say is not that, but cash will go to corruption, the politicians would have to. But the professionals, they have to run away because the environment in Africa is not conducive to keep them and let them survive. So they will have to go seek. So if we can value them, think of how they can master their craft and practice those crafts in Africa. And the bigger companies that do come to, for example, the extractive industry, you mine iron ore, go to China or other countries, why not ask them to do factories? In our different countries, they can process those things and then we realize better out of whatever that we are getting, the peanuts we are getting as a continent when we're being exploited.